take the grip. Hey everyone, we're just getting everything set up here. Let me give you just a moment while we...
Tag me now, I feel like an asshole.
What'd you say?
You tag me, I feel like a dick.
Oh, you didn't tag me?
I was like, oh, I don't want the blue thing to pop up. Oh my god,
I'm sorry you didn't want the blue thing to pop up. I'm sorry I'm that much of an inconvenience to you.
What the heck?
Okay. I think we're about set up here. Are you feeling good about this? Anything else we need to take care of before we kick off the show?
No, let's do it.
Okay, so welcome everyone. This is BitDev's Radio Hour number 4. It is Friday, December 5th. We're broadcasting live from ATL BitLab. That's Atlanta's Bitcoin and Freedom Tech community space. I'm Stephen DeLorme.
I'm Alex Lewin.
How you doing today?
Doing well. I guess this is kind of going to be our, at least my Christmassy one. I don't think I'll be back on for the rest of the year.
Am I doing solo episodes for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Or I'll have to bring some other people on. That'll be cool.
Yeah.
There'll be the Alex fill-in. You'll have to take off your hat and give it to them, and they can wear your hat.
I guess so.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. We actually got, speaking of end of the year, we did our final Atlanta BitDevs meetup for the end of the year. Last night, right? No, the other night, Wednesday. Night. Yeah. So that was the final BitDevs meetup for the year. There'll be, of course, a Atlanta Bitcoin holiday party this upcoming week, but it was a final BitDevs meetup. People were talking about the live stream and all that. Somebody suggested live call-ins, like, radio shows, how they used to do that. You don't get that much anymore. So I put a Riverside link into the community chat. If anybody wants to try a live call-in, we can see how it goes. I don't know. But otherwise, we can, I guess, get into today's material. Anything you think we should hit on before we talk about what's new?
No, I think we're good to go.
All right. Well, I'll also go ahead and use that as an opportunity to say that if anybody has any content that they particularly want to learn about or interested in hearing about on the live stream or on the podcast, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to cherry pick topics from Bitcoin and Lightning technical development, stuff that we find interesting. So why don't we just start at the top of the list here? We got some new BIP numbers assigned today. And this was a post from Merch on X, one of our BIP repo editors. 2 new BIP numbers assigned. That's BIP 110, reduced data temporary soft fork, and BIP 89. Some people might be wondering why it's BIP 110. We talked about reduced data temporary soft fork, I think on the very first BitDev's Radio Hour right there. And someone asked here on X, why 110 and not 444? Genuine question. Merch responded, same reason as why 420 is not OPCAT. Someone making up a number assignment on Twitter does not mean that a number has been assigned. Also, another submission had self-assigned 444 before. The process states that number gets assigned by editors in the PR, which just happened now. So if anyone was confused about that, well, that's why now it's 110, but should be the same BIP that we talked about last week.
Yeah, BIP numbers, they are meaningless, but typically they try to keep related BIPs together. So I have no idea what the neighboring BIPs around 110 are. Maybe it's policy related.
Yeah, if you notice like all of the stuff around like HD wallets and backups and stuff, they're all in the like 30s and 40s, I think. So you see kind of a similar grouping around those related ideas. So yeah, I guess whatever this is, it belongs in the hundreds.
BIP 109, 2 million byte size limit with SIGOP and SIGHASH limits.
Oh, I wonder if that's for consensus related ones.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing that this is a collection of like silly ones that they don't like.
Huh.
I'm wondering, like, just it's Gavin Anderson, like he's a real contributor, but
Huh.
it's interesting.
Yeah, we'd have to check on that. If anybody knows, let us know in the chat or send us a boost on Fountain afterwards and let us know. I'll probably avoid talking about that one any further since we kind of went into more detail at several meetups and also on the first live stream. 89 I thought was interested in talking about though. This BIP itself is from October, and I had not heard of this back in October. I missed this one, but it just got a BIP number today, so that prompted me to go and read through it, at least skim the basics. So it's chain code delegation for private. Can we actually read the title? I can't see it anymore.
Yeah.
Chain code delegation for private collaborative custody. What on earth would that mean?
Great question.
I'll tell you. Well, so collaborative custody, familiar with that? We're talking stuff like Unchained Capital, Casa, all these kinds of services. The basic idea is my coins are locked up in a multi-sig. I have perhaps 2 keys, and then my collaborative custodian maybe keeps 1 key. If I lose one of my keys, I can go to my collaborative custody person and I can get them to sign transactions for me. That's useful in the case of a backup or something like that. Can you imagine any problems that you might have with a setup like Unchained Capital or Casa?
One thing is that you have no privacy. The service provider sees everything.
Yeah. The typical way that you would do these kind of setups is you would generate, all 3 keys, and you would have like an XPub, the extended public key. So in order to create this multi-sig quorum, you would need the 3 extended public keys for all of the keys, and that effectively allows, the typical way of doing this is that anybody in this multi-sig quorum is going to have the XPubs necessary for, being able to generate addresses. That's how Unchained can give you an address when you go log into their web app. It's also how you can take, your keys and move it to Sparrow or some other, wallet application, and you can still generate the same addresses. So there isn't really any privacy. We're not trying to, indicate foul play on the part of Unchained or Casa, just saying that from a technical perspective, it is possible for them to generate addresses, and they can, see any address you have, and so you lose some privacy from that regard. So what this thing does, as I understand it, is this BIP is basically to completely prevent needing to share the XPub with your collaborative custodian. So using the idea is that you withhold the chain code, and as such, you don't need to give them the XPub, and they're not really able to generate. The person who's holding the other key for you, the company that's holding the other key for you, let's say, is not able to generate addresses on your behalf, so they can't see which funds you have. However, they can sign on transactions, and so what you're able to do is you're able to give them a number to help them tweak the signature such that it would match. The signature would end up valid once they sign it. So that makes it so that they can effectively co-sign on your transactions without needing to know every single Bitcoin address you have, which I thought was interesting.
This is super cool. I've not heard of this at all. So, yeah, I mean, one thing to note is they still would be able to see the contents of the transactions they are signing. But what this allows, like the added privacy, is that they wouldn't be able to see any of the transactions that you sign with the other 2 keys.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like the third key usually is just a backup. It's like the emergency key. So the emergency key holder can still safeguard you in case you lose one of yours, but they don't have to be involved in all of your normal transactions until you have an emergency.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. It's like you could just, get by with your 2 main keys and do all your business and stack all of your Bitcoin. and only really get that collaborative custodian. Only docs your coins to them if it's like an actually absolute emergency.
Yeah, this is black magic. I need to understand how this works. I really don't get it. Do you have like intuition of like technically how this is possible?
It's with key tweaking. They said, and this gets into the cryptography stuff that's a little bit beyond me. But I think it's only really possible with like Schnorr signatures. But I might be wrong on that. I'd love to be corrected on that.
Yeah. Okay. Custodian sends TI, and then you create a child pub key and a child private key. So you create a new key pair using the custodian's key, and then you create the transaction, and then they give you a signature, and then you could tweak the signature after the fact. Is that the trick?
I think you give them the number and they tweak it as they're signing.
They tweak it as they're signing.
Yeah.
And that's like enough because of Frost math. That's enough to validate a signature.
Yeah, I think so. But again,
Wild.
I'm not a cryptographer, so. I mean, you get into all this kind of stuff. It's like the same kind of stuff we've talked about with like Spark before, I think, where it's like, that you can have all this idea of the, you just need to like compute the difference. If you want to create an aggregate signature, you can compute the difference between two keys. I think it might be related to that, but regardless, I'm in way over my head. I just thought it was a cool idea. Jesse Posner contributed to this, and Jervis Tan. I think Jesse Posner's working on a project called Vora now. You can see it in the email address on the BIP. And Jervis, I'm assuming, must work on some stuff at Block. But so
yeah, he works on the hardware wallet.
Okay, Bitkey. So we got two multi-sig wizards here.
Yeah, and plus, yeah, Nick Farrow, he's the Frost wizard. He works on FrostSnap, the Frost signing hardware wallet.
Oh, those are those things you like click together.
Yep. Or as Odell put it, the human centipede of wallets.
The human centipede of wallets. Oh my God. All right. Well, this would be cool. We'll see if somebody implements it. Maybe Block will implement it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder just like creatively, like what else can we do with these blinded signing protocols? Like, what other areas are we like leaking privacy to a signer? Like, I wonder if like Rob Hamilton's company, like AnchorWatch, could utilize something like this to make the insurance setups that they have more private. So that, like, yeah, you could still protect users and prevent them from losing their funds without seeing all of their transactions.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Well, all right, let's move on to something else here. So yeah, we have like a grab bag of random stuff we thought was interesting. I think the consensus bug, this was from either today's Bitcoin Optech or last week's, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. Probably worth talking about. Now, I said consensus bug, don't freak out. It's not with Bitcoin Core, but this was an interesting delving post here. And this was it Bruno Garcia, I think was the name? Yeah. So Bruno is reporting a consensus bug on in Bitcoin. For anyone who's not aware, that is like the .NET framework Bitcoin. And I believe it's what BTC Pay Server uses. Because like all of that's written in the .NET framework. So we're not talking about like a client that is going to be like propagating transactions and all that between Bitcoin nodes. But anywho, they identified a vulnerability or I shouldn't say a vulnerability. They identified a situation where you can feed in a certain type of transaction where in Bitcoin will report it as not valid and Bitcoin Core will report it as valid. And so that would obviously not that we're talking about real transactions here, it's just a test transaction, but had it been a real transaction, then there would have been a difference in consensus between Bitcoin Core and in Bitcoin. I think how they discovered it is the more interesting aspect of this story. And they discovered it using differential fuzzing. And with this, so they actually, I think there's a link that I put under there that goes to the Bitcoin fuzzing library on GitHub. Now, Alex, you have a little bit of, I don't know if I want to say experience, but I know you've talked about fuzzing related concepts at BitDevs before. Could you maybe like at a high level explain what fuzzing is? to folks?
Yeah, so fuzzing is a testing strategy. When we're testing software, it's hard to, like, one of the roles of the software engineer as you're building important software is to think of ways to test it and try to cover all of the cases of the way that it can go wrong. So you'll hear about like creating massive numbers of test vectors or test cases. This is very labor intensive and challenging, and to know all of the different ways that it's possible for a computer to mess up, you need teams of PhDs. This is how like NASA wrote software in like the 50s. It's like you just had teams of PhDs that like wrote every possible test case. This is not a feasible task for most software engineers. Now we have a better strategy. So fuzzing is a different strategy for testing. Instead of writing all the tests yourself, you get the fuzzer to generate random inputs to different functions, and you wait for it to break. So it's basically brute forcing the program to find bugs. It's pretty nuts. There's a lot of sophistications, a ton of research and a ton of development into the libraries to make fuzzing very good. But Bitcoin Fuzz specifically has been working on creating fuzz tests and running fuzz tests on Bitcoin. One interesting thing about fuzzers is that you never finish. You just keep running them forever, and then they just spit out more bugs over time.
I think of it as almost kind of like mashing on the keyboard.
Yeah.
That like it's like if I were to like bring up a piece of software on my computer and just mash the keyboard forever and ever until eventually I, enter in some combination of keystrokes that just completely bricks it. It's not like that. We don't literally have somebody pushing a keyboard, but you're trying to provide these like randomized inputs and see, will one of these unexpectedly break the software?
Yeah, like it's the same process of like mining. You're brute forcing to find a low hash. It's like you're brute forcing to find bugs.
And this one specifically was a differential fuzzing project.
Yeah, so differential fuzzing is still fuzzing, but instead of looking for instead of fuzzing a program to try to find like crashes or breaks, you fuzz two different programs that are supposed to do the same thing, and you look for differences. So this has been incredibly fruitful for in Bitcoin to test some of the other less popular implementations. They found like I think a couple dozen bugs in BTCD, which is what Lightning or LND uses as their Bitcoin backend. They just found another one in NLightning. Yeah, it's super cool, super exciting.
Yeah, important project. And I think some people from this team also were doing the lightning fuzzing thing too.
Yeah, so Bruno, the guy who's leading, he's probably the single leader of the Bitcoin fuzzing project. He and a few of the Vintium students, like the young developers at Vintium and the Brazilian hacker program to build open source Bitcoin developers, they started a lightning fuzzing project. And frankly, differential fuzzing, and it's called Lightning Fuzz, differential fuzzing is probably more important for Lightning than it is for Bitcoin. Like, not that many people run the other implementations of Bitcoin, but there is a diverse set of Lightning nodes out there.
I see.
So like knowing the differences between LND and CLN and LTK and all the others, like that actually has real material impact on users.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Well, I'm glad they're running that project and that they found something there. I'll probably avoid going into too much details about the the actual bug itself because it gets a little deeper.
Yeah, one other thing about like NBitcoin. So .NET is not a very popular choice amongst like hackers and developers, like just normal like people that we interact with a lot, like and people in open source. But .NET is still dominant in the corporate world. Like many, there's millions of .NET developers. So even some of the biggest Bitcoin companies that like work on like large Bitcoin solutions at like enterprise scale use .NET. For example, like Zebedee. Zebedee's a .NET shop. I'm pretty sure they use NBitcoin. So it's not like people aren't using these libraries. It's just a different kind of user.
Yeah, and that's actually, when we were at the Bitcoin Plus in Berlin, the Lightning edition, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he gave a presentation on...
Nicholas, this guy.
Yeah, on... No. There was I think there was a guy who was working on a .NET implementation of Lightning.
It's this guy.
No, that's the guy from BTC Pay Server, Nicholas Dorier.
Oh, there's two Nicholases that work on .NET Bitcoin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that's Nicholas Doria from BTC Pay Server right there.
It's like NIK, I think, is the other Nicholas.
But yeah, but it's basically a project to build a Lightning node using .NET, and that was kind of like his justification too. He's like, in the enterprise world, you know, large corporations are not, building their stack in Rust. They're building it with .NET.
Yeah, this Nicholas.
I see. Yes, we have it up on screen. Nicholas Golin. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, and I think it's very early. I mean, I don't think it's like, you're not going to go and like start running with it today or anything. He's having to re-implement a lot of the Bolt specs. But the theory behind it is, one, along the way, perhaps find inconsistency or, issues in the Bolt spec. And two, end up with something that is in .NET and perhaps is a more appealing piece of technology to the corporate world.
Yeah. Yeah, he makes a really compelling argument. He's given this talk a few times. He basically argues that one of the reasons why companies are often apprehensive to touch Bitcoin is for technical reasons, that their entire shop is .NET and these other tools, and Bitcoiners tend to care about languages they like, and they don't cater to these like large enterprise languages like .NET or even like Java. Like there's JBitcoin is big, but not nearly as big as like the Rust Bitcoin scene. So yeah, super cool, very exciting. Let's go fussing.
Yep.
I think this is funny. Also, the timeline on the bug report is on October 23rd, Bruno reports the issue to Nicholas. On October 23rd, Nicholas confirms the issue. On October 23rd, he opens the PR to fix it. On October 23rd, the next release is released. So they fixed the bug.
Bug report and cut a new release in one day.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, it is funny because usually with those kind of security timeline reports, it usually takes place over the course of like, a couple weeks or a month or something.
Yeah, I mean, they're 100% just flexing in this, that like calling this a timeline and then putting the same date 4 times. It's just, like, yeah, it's very funny. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, we got another banger here from Z-Man, ZMN SCP XJ. Private key handover. So this was a post to Delving, and I don't think it got any comments yet, but I thought it was interesting, and so I wanted to highlight it. Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's not familiar with Z-Man's work, Core Lightning contributor and prolific writer, I guess you would say in terms of writing ideas for the Lightning protocol. So the private key handover here, I'm going to try and explain this the way that I understand it. So basically, you end up in situations with Lightning sometimes where one side of the channel is going to claim all the balance. And, an example of that is just like we've done a bunch of transactions on our Lightning channel. And, let's say all of the channel capacity is pushed to your side of the channel, Alex. And so the idea is he's putting forth here that you could make this way more efficient, this HTLC, this kind of like, this hash time lock contract that might need to be claimed on chain. You can make that way more efficient if I just gave you the private key. If I just handed you the private key to that, and then you could just spend that directly. Yeah, I know I can see the expression you're making, but he outlines it in pretty good detail here. So I mean, for one, the idea is you wouldn't have to have any kind of collaboration in order to RBF it. 2, you could consolidate bunches of these things into one transaction, because if you just have the private key, you can spend it directly without having to spend that coin in another way. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And he kind of goes into a lot of detail about like how you would do that. I mean, the basic idea is it involves, each of us generating like an ephemeral key here. It's not the same as like my Lightning node's pub key, right? We would generate like an ephemeral key, and we would use that. This is only for Taproot, by the way. So this is only going to work with like Taproot HTLCs. But But yeah, we would each generate this ephemeral key pair, and then once you give me the pre-image, I can safely hand over the private key to you, and then you can just spend that on your own without me.
Yeah, this is cool. This sounds kind of like state chains. Like state chain payments are also are executed by handing somebody a private key.
Yes, it's similar in that it is a private key handover. I think it's dissimilar in that I don't necessarily know if it's this like Musig 2 contraption, but
Yeah, or like at least with Spark, it's like Musig inside of or Frost inside of Musig or Musig inside of Frost. But yeah, the idea of applying it to Lightning is definitely novel.
yeah, so it was neat. Can you imagine any failure scenarios with this? I mean, handing a private key over the internet.
I mean, we have end-to-end encrypted communication. That's
I mean, that's basically what he says too. He just highlights it as a potential risk that it does feel weird to just hand key material over the internet.
yeah. So what's the difference between like the Lightning we have today and what this would offer? Is there any like material benefits?
This is more of an optimization more than this isn't like I don't see this as being something that re-architects the way that all Lightning payments happen. This is more of an optimization that ekes more efficiency out of Lightning. It enables you to RBF a transaction more efficiently without needing to get my Lightning node involved. And then, like I said, it gives you some benefits in terms of being able to consolidate these coins. You can basically just treat this thing like the HTLC like any other UTXO, and you can consolidate these a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, this is cool. It says you can get rid of anchors on Lightning channels. You can get rid of anchor outputs.
Oh,
Which is cool. Like the reason why we have anchor outputs, like if you have a Lightning channel, there's two outputs that are obvious, one to you, one to me, as my channel partner. But there's two more outputs for each of us to fee bump via CPFP. There's 330 SAT outputs. This is a massive pain in the ass to deal with as a developer, especially if you're like really care about the accounting of your Lightning nodes and your Lightning channels, because you have to account for these 330 SAT outputs. So the numbers don't add up. They're off by 660 SATs. So yeah, no, I'm a fan of making the protocol simpler to deal with.
yeah. I see. And again, I think this would only work if the channel balance is like entirely on one person's side. But in that situation, yeah, I guess you wouldn't need an anchor.
Yeah, in particular, the transaction to claim the lump fund does not need to have anchor outputs. The beneficiary can RBF the transaction to claim the lump fund even if the protocol has no support for RBF. Interesting. I mean, he makes it sound like you don't need anchors at all.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you would just use RBF. You wouldn't need to, because that's the thing, is that the anchors provide you a benefit. You can use child pay for parent for the transaction, so you would just have to rely on RBF without the anchor.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we can't use RPF today is because you need additional signatures. So it'd be an interactive process to RBF.
Yeah.
And because you have the key, like you have the private key, you can unilaterally exit without talking to your channel partner. So you could unilaterally RBF, not just because you have a signed transaction, but you have the ability to sign future transactions.
Yeah. You actually have the key.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really interesting. Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So this is cool. We'll see what happens.
He's so verbose.
Yes, he is very verbose. But I gotta say, I like his writing style. I like when he goes on the mailing list and he begins like a post with like "Good morning, everyone," and like he's very polite and formal with the way he speaks.
Yeah, I remember when I was first getting into Bitcoin and Lightning, I was following the Lightning Does mailing list, and I was marveled at Z-Man. I thought he was like this coolest person ever, just like a cryptographer on the internet by some pseudonym. And he's like putting these crazy ideas about cryptography and distributed systems. It's just beautiful. So it's cool to see him still doing it.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're nearing kind of the end of our show here. We got two more things to cover. We're gonna leave behind the intense cryptography and consensus stuff. Let's talk about a little bit of non-Bitcoin stuff. Critical security vulnerability in React server components.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah. Shout out to Nitesh from ATL BitLab for notifying, and being the champion for getting everybody to update their projects.
Yeah, super scary. How many projects did you have to update immediately?
I don't know if I should disclose that on a live stream.
But they're all upgraded though, right?
Yeah.
Or how many personal projects that you have publicly?
Yeah. If I told you that, I'd have to kill you. A lot. So. I mean, the reason a lot of people are having to update their projects is because of Next.js, right? So
it's actually not Next.js. Oh, sorry. Like Next.js is what people are using, but the underlying bug is in React.
Correct. That's what I meant. Is it so? This is a vulnerability in React, and specifically, it's in several versions of 19.0, 19.1.0, 19.1.1, and 19.2.0. However, one way that many people consume React these days is using a framework called Next.js. I'm raising my hand. Alex would be raising his hand too if he wasn't holding a microphone in one hand and using the other hand to navigate this website. Because it's a really handy framework, you can deploy it to platforms like Netlify and Vercel. It's just kind of if you're building a web application, it's like a great starter point. Oh, we got a comment here. Hey guys, good to see you. Love the set. Have a good weekend. Hey, thanks, Peter. Thanks for chiming in the chat. So we, a lot of people in our crew have used Next.js as starters. Same on the broader internet. So if you've made a Next.js project at any point this year in 2025. I'd say it's probably using React 19.
Yeah. So one reason why Next is getting hit harder is that Next was a early champion of React server components and building this like server side front end, and that is where the bug lied. It was in the React server component code.
Yeah, and so that makes sense because with Next.js, there's two ways that you can have a page rendered on your website or your web app. You can use the client rendering, which is actually like old school Next.js, but the client rendering would be all of the interactivity and like kind of like assembly of the HTML DOM happens in the browser locally, and that's client. And I still use those today for like when I have interactive stuff happening on a web page or a web app, stuff that needs to change frequently. I do that as a client component. But a lot of the newer versions of Next.js use server components by default. And so it's actually going to assemble the DOM, or I'm sorry, I should say it's going to assemble the HTML markup on the server, send that to your browser to construct the DOM. So yeah, Next.js uses server pages by default now. So it's using this.
Yeah, super cool for web dev. But yeah, so while it's only in just 3 minor versions of React, like just of React 19, it's in all of these versions of Next. So basically most of Next 15 and Next 16, which was recently released, got nailed.
Yeah. So like I said, if you made a Next.js project like 3 years ago, I don't think it shouldn't have this. But if you made a Next.js project and you like started a fresh project anytime in 2025 or updated the dependencies on a project in 2025, you might want to go back and look at it and see if it's using React 19.
Yeah. So other things. So comparing to the timeline that we saw in Bitcoin Fuzz did everything in one day, and Bitcoin did in one day. It's still pretty impressive. So in November, the timeline for this fix was also very speedy. So November 29th, somebody reported the security vulnerability via the Meta Bug Bounty Program. And then November 30th, Meta security researchers confirmed that the bug is working, confirmed the bug and working. By December 1st, the fix was created and they started working, and the React team started working with the downstream service providers to open source projects to validate the fix, and then by December 3rd, this was published. Crazy. This is probably the worst security issue with modern front ends in years. Can you think of anything remotely
No.
close? Like the specifics of the bug allows any attacker to go to any website of any project running this code and execute remote code on the server with server authorization. So they can steal server secrets, they can poison your system, they can crash your server by just visiting your website.
What do you think that would mean for something like, let's say, a web application running on Vercel? Let's say somebody Bitcoin hacker has made Next.js, done something, built a little web application, added in some environment variables on Vercel to help it connect to their Ln bits or a Lightning node or something like that. So they have this web app. Its code is on GitHub. It's hosted on Vercel, and it has some environment variables on Vercel that would, allow it to connect to a Lightning node and some other stuff. What do we think the risks are?
Yeah, so like I run a bunch of projects on Vercel. They had an email saying that there is no intervention that can be done without changing the code.
Yeah.
So if your project is running on their system, then anything, like you have full authorization of just code running on the server from the client.
But I guess I'm assuming that must be sandboxed and for Vercel so that it's not going to like affect their whole system. Or
yeah, correct. But like as a developer using these systems, part of the promise is that the user fetching from a website cannot touch things on the server. So you can do
Totally.
You can safely access your database on the server. You can safely hit your billing things. You can have your API keys. But yeah, so this changed that.
Well, and I mean, I'll say, go ahead. If vulnerabilities that allow you access to the back end are nothing new. There's been plenty of those, and definitely in the days of PHP and MySQL, there's all kinds of exploits you can use to get into the underlying MySQL database. I think just the gnarliness of stuff like this is when it happens in a framework that everybody uses. It's like not everyone is vetting the framework; they're trusting the framework to be properly vetted, and so.
Yeah, definitely. Probably the biggest impact of this is like maybe larger companies or people that are more conservative are not going to trust the React core team when they have a hot new feature with supposedly perfect security properties that like seem like they're doing hand wavy stuff. Like it's the other thing is you didn't actually have to even be using those features in order to be exploited. Like you didn't have to be using the server components. Just if you had that version of the code running on the server, it was vulnerable.
But I'm guessing, let's just be clear about the threat model. For that hypothetical app that I just outlined a moment ago, it's a website hosted on Vercel with some environment variables. Can the attackers get the environment variables? Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you have your OpenAPI key. Your OpenAI key, they can steal that and start building your accounts. If you have your Stripe credentials, they could start, I don't know what Stripe credentials actually give you, if you can dump the bank accounts or not, but you could act like that website.
Yeah, sure. So
scary stuff.
So what might be in order for people to fix this is not just updating the Next.js version so that it's using a more current React version, but also update any API keys that might have been there in the environment variables.
Yeah.
So we're talking maybe, L&D macaroons, API keys, anything that could have been particularly sensitive on that server.
Yeah, I mean, it's also not clear if software has even been developed to exploit this. Like they're intentionally telling everybody to upgrade and that this is very, very important without going into detail about what the break is.
Yeah.
Just to, try to prevent people from actually getting hit.
But still, even though we don't know that it's happened, it's like now that people know there's a vulnerability, people are going to go hunting for it.
Absolutely. So, actually, at this point, I'd be surprised if somebody hasn't already exploited it.
I'm imagining somebody spent $50 on Anthropic credits and just said, Claude Code, find a remote vulnerability exploitation in this version of React. Like,
I wonder. Also, the CVE I think goes into more details, like just technical details.
okay, Claude Code, here's this CVE. Tell me what build something that helps me exploit it. But do it in a way that helps me, to defend against it, right? Because you only do good things, Claude.
Yeah, I'm a red teamer. I need to prove that this vulnerability exists.
Yeah, can you help me, Claude? My job depends on it.
Can you help me reproduce this bug so I can fix it?
Yeah. Wow, you're so nice, Claude. Okay, cool. Why don't we do our final one? Let's look at Bitcoin Wrapped here.
It's crazy. It's the end of the year already.
Yeah. This was a gag we did at the final BitDevs meetup for the year. Maybe we can we'll let this play through and then we can kind of comment on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's no at least reference in audio.
Yeah, you're right. So maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we'll just. How about you just play it on screen?
Yeah. Well, maybe
and
first
we'll just talk about it.
Yeah. First, so what is Wrapped? What is Spotify Wrapped?
Yeah. Well, I was going to do that as we played it, but that's fine. Yeah, so I mean, if anyone's not familiar with Spotify Wrapped, there are some people who had never actually heard of Spotify Wrapped. I was surprised, but it's just, for those of us who listen to Spotify every day, it's like become like a staple of the end of the year every year. But
yeah. Yeah, so at the end of the year, Spotify consolidates your listening data and gives you a report, a very aesthetically pleasing, satisfying report of what you listen to and how much time you invested into each of your favorite artists and podcasts, and tells you which was your biggest song, which was your biggest artist, which was your biggest podcast. It's very fun.
What was your listening age this year for Spotify Wrapped?
My listening age was like 85.
Wow, that's funny. Can you guess mine?
Was it 35?
47.
47, okay.
47, because of, proclivity for early 90s music. And can you guess what my girlfriend's...
I have no idea what Mario listens to. Yeah.
Her listening age was 77.
77?
77.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So I beat her by a decade.
Yeah. You beat her by a decade. You're an old man.
I saw there was somebody post on Twitter that like, oh yeah, I've just been listening to Gregorian chant, so my age is like 1,800 years.
Ooh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, before we get into Bitcoin Wrapped, we got a comment in the chat from YNNIV. How can I reproduce the issue? Quote, how can I reproduce the issue? This CVE gets you what you're looking for 90% of the time. So, yeah, I think he's kind of affirming. Thanks for that comment. I think he's kind of affirming what we were just saying is if you hand a CVE to an AI and say, how can I reproduce this issue? You'll probably get it. Well, anyways, as Alex was explaining about Spotify Wrapped, aesthetically pleasing. He had the idea, I think it was your idea originally, that maybe we should do like a spoof of that for Atlanta BitDevs. And what did we cover at BitDevs over the course of the year?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I observed every company and their mother is now making wrapped services or wrapped things for their services. They're copying Spotify Wrapped and doing it for YouTube and Facebook or whatever. So there's a million wraps out there. Why not one for Bitcoin?
Yeah. So I actually found a wrapped generator that somebody had made for 2024, and I tweaked it for 2025, and did some light composition of everything in After Effects and all that. We came up with this. I sent an AI crawling the BitDevs website to find everything that we covered, and it found some interesting stuff. I ended up having to write a lot of this on my own. But
it's funny. Yeah, I said, it would be too ambitious on a Tuesday. I said it would be too ambitious to ship this by Wednesday, the meetup tomorrow. And then you said, hold my beer. And like in 90 minutes, it was done.
Well, it was a fun project. What I spent the longest on, though, was actually just sourcing the content. I'll go ahead and, highlight some of the stuff we're looking at on screen for, those that are listening to this later. So it's like, oh, your 2025 Bitcoin Wrapped is here. And then the first one is, first we did some stats on the meetups and how many meetups we did and all that kind of stuff. But the very first slide after that is about covenants. That was our song on repeat. And I actually needed ChatGPT deep research identified this for me, that it was on every single Socratic seminar for the entire year. Something about CTV or CSFS or op template hash. So Covenant's recurring conversation of this year, and I'm hoping in 2026, as a Bitcoin community, we can find some kind of rough consensus.
Yeah, I gotta love delusions of grandeur.
What else? We talked a lot about quantum. That was another hot topic this year. I feel like we didn't go deep enough into the specifics of quantum. We did shout out to Andreas from our community who did a really great quantum talk.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my favorite talks of the year. And he went as deep as anybody could possibly go for our content or for our audience.
But we might need to go even deeper next year. We'll see. I mean, we're just looking at this, pleasing animation on screen, and let's just let it go, and we can talk to the stuff that speaks to us. Guilty pleasure, government, and regulatory issues.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we've crossed the threshold of legitimization. Like Bitcoin is no longer niche. Like if you think it's niche, then you're a boomer at this point. Like everybody knows it's the future, and everybody knows it's happening. It's just a matter of how much you pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Like, I mean, ETFs have made a ton of progress. That's I think a big macro thing.
Yeah. And so there was content for that to discuss at every Socratic seminar.
Another thing that we didn't talk about, but the proliferation of Bitcoin treasury companies. This was probably the highlight of the year for non-technical people. Is like the idea that MicroStrategy's concept is replicable, and people try to repeat it.
There's a lot of them. I mean, even just yesterday there was, I think it's called not yesterday, but sometime in the past week or so, the Bitcoin Infrastructure Acquisition Corporation by Ryan Gentry. And I think they did an IPO or something.
Is that different from Mahler's thing?
Yeah, I think Mahler's thing was like the 21 Corporation or something like that. It had some...
Yeah, CEP officially signed the documents and announced that they were converting to 21. So CEP was being shut down, and 21 is going to take over their...
This is different. This is the Bitcoin Infrastructure Acquisition Corporation.
What is that?
Details forthcoming. It's something Ryan Gentry's been posting about on Twitter, and I think it was like an IPO or something. It's pretty wild.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, but we'll see what they end up doing. I mean, I guess my hope there would be is, maybe we would see some investment going into things other than just holding Bitcoin.
What do you mean?
I mean, I would love to see more stuff on the infrastructure layer. Like, we should see, treasury companies should be Lightning service providers, in my opinion.
Do you think that's happening?
I think Liquid is kind of doing maybe LQWD or whatever. I think I've heard that's a little bit of what they're doing. I mean, they do offer Lightning services, but I think I've heard that their kind of value add is more like being a treasury company. But I think there should be more of that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
long topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical.
That's fine. Maybe we'll debate that in another show. BitVM, a lot of that content this year. I mean, we didn't go deep into BitVM, but it just kept coming up.
So the one Socratic that you missed that I led, we went deeper into BitVM 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But yes, we have more to learn. We'll see if all of that materializes.
Yeah. Top new genre, forking. 2 software proposals this year.
No, way more than that.
Well,
two big ones. Two
big ones.
Yeah, maybe there's 1,000, variants, but
yeah, sure.
What was the second one?
At least what I put on the list was CTV plus CSFS and RDTS. I don't personally consider RDTS a reduced data temporary soft fork. I don't personally consider it super serious, but it had a lot of conversation and mind share, so it got a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, there's also op template hash technically is a different software proposal.
I guess by software proposal, I meant more like something like hey, we actually like want to start talking about making plans to do this?
Yeah, no, I think these are definitely the two biggest ones
Yes.
that got the most attention and support.
Yes. I mean, no, thank you for that clarification. Good point. Yes, anything that is like a new opcode is going to be a consensus change. And that consensus change necessitates a fork. So yes, anytime somebody proposes a new opcode, you're kind of talking about a fork. Difference what I'm talking about is this year we saw some proposals that it's like, hey, here's 40 or however many of us signing a letter saying we think this needs to happen, or the RDTS. There's this kind of push on the Twitter plebiscite to get that thing to happen. So it was those were actual discussions around, hey, we should have a fork.
Cool. Do you have a favorite?
Favorite topic from this? Or
favorite thing of the year.
Top 5% of hackers. Lana continued to, rack up a lot of hackathon wins, and not only proud of just the wins from the community, but also the people who made projects. Just first time hackers, people building stuff. That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got in the chat here from we got in the chat a yes please for I think debating the treasury companies should be Lightning service providers.
Sweet.
Yes. Well, cool. We're a little bit over the hour here. I think we need to go ahead and wrap up today to get on with our weekend. What do you think, Alex? Is there any final comments we should address before we wrap it up?
Yeah, thanks for your support. We in the first few episodes we got some nice comments from people. If you have ideas for us or suggestions of how to make this show better, more valuable to you, that's all very much appreciated. Please share this with a friend and keep this going. We're gonna keep trying to do this every week. This is my last show for the year, but probably. But yeah, it's been great. I will see everybody in 2026 for another amazing year.
Yep, and look us up on Fountain. Send us a boost there if you like the show. Just search for ATL BitLab. That's ATL BITLAB. Just look for ATL BitLab on Fountain, and you can boost in the show there. This will be Alex's last show for the year. We'll see him again after the new year, but we'll try my best to keep things running along over the next couple weeks here. But you never know. I might be off too. So we'll see how it goes. But regardless, we'll see you next time, everybody, and thank you very much.
See ya.
Catch you later.